What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for NFL Week 1. Sleepers and studs.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon
so you don't miss our new videos.
In this video, I'm going to give you a sleeper pick and my favorite stud at each position.
And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made.
Okay guys, NFL Week 1, sleepers and studs. Let's take a look at the quarterback position. My stud pick at the quarterback position is Kyler Murray from the Arizona Cardinals playing the Tennessee Titans, who have the 5th worst defense overall, and they give up the 4th most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Kyler Murray, he averaged 25.4 fantasy points per game on the season last year, and he got an average of 8.3 rush attempts per game. Now, he's only going to be about 5% owned, projected at 24 fantasy points here in Week 1. He's $7,600 DraftKings salary and $800 more on FanDuel. So Vegas thinks this is going to be a high-scoring game. 52 points scored in this game, and they have the Cardinals trailing by 3. So it's a fantastic matchup. Could be a passing game script, and Kyler Murray should get a ton of rush attempts. So I like Kyler Murray here versus the Tennessee Titans. Okay, my sleeper pick at the quarterback position is Kirk Cousins from the Minnesota Vikings playing the Cincinnati Bengals, who have the 9th worst defense overall. They're middle of the pack defending opposing quarterbacks, and Kirk Cousins, he averaged 21.2 fantasy points per game on the season last year. He gets an average of 2 rush attempts per game, and he's only going to be about 2% owned. He scored 37, 24, and 20 fantasy points in his last 3 games of the season last year, and he's projected at 19.5 fantasy points here in Week 1. He's only $6,300 DraftKings salary and $900 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 47 points scored in this game, and they have the Vikings favored by 3. So Kirk Cousins closed out the season last year very well. He's got an excellent wide receiver core to go around him and an awesome running back to open up the pass. So I like Kirk Cousins here versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Okay, let's take a look at the running back position. My running back stud is Alvin Kamara from the New Orleans Saints playing the Green Bay Packers, who had a pretty good defense overall last year, but they give up the 5th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. Alvin Kamara averaged 25.6 fantasy points per game on the season, and he got 12.5 rush attempts per game and 7.1 pass targets per game. He's going to be about 17% owned, projected at 21.2 fantasy points here in Week 1. He's $8,600 FanDuel salary, and he's the same price on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 49 points scored in this game, with the Saints trailing by 3.5. So Alvin Kamara gets a ton of pass targets, so even if they fall behind, he'll still be productive, and he's got a fantastic matchup on the ground. So I like Alvin Kamara here versus the Green Bay Packers. Okay, my sleeper pick at the running back position is Mike Davis from the Atlanta Falcons playing the Philadelphia Eagles, who have a middle of the pack defense overall, and they're middle of the pack defending opposing running backs. Mike Davis, he averaged 13.8 fantasy points per game on the season last year, got an average of 11 rush attempts per game and 4.7 pass targets per game. He's going to be about 8% owned, projected at 14.1 fantasy points here in Week 1. And the reason I like this pick is because he's only $5,400 DraftKings salary and $800 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 48.5 points scored in this game, and they have the Falcons favored by 3.5. So I think this guy might go under the radar a little bit. We know he can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's got some pretty big upside. So I like Mike Davis here versus the Philadelphia Eagles.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all the tools for NFL. NBA is right around the corner. This is a great time to get in and try everything for 1 month. The tools are all about saving research time. You can see the last 3 games, the fantasy points per game, the targets they got per game, so you can see how involved they are in the offense, the rushes they got per game. Seeing all this stuff on one screen helps you save time and make better picks. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Okay, let's take a look at the wide receiver position. My wide receiver stud is DeAndre Hopkins from the Arizona Cardinals playing the Tennessee Titans, who have the 5th worst defense overall, and they give up the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. DeAndre Hopkins averaged 19.4 fantasy points per game on the season last year, getting an average of 10 pass targets per game. He's going to be about 11% owned, and I like this pick because he was on the field for 92% of the snaps, touched the ball 15% of the time. He's projected at 19.1 fantasy points here in week 1, and he's $7,800 DraftKings salary and $400 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 52 points scored in this game, with the Cardinals trailing by 3, so it's a fantastic matchup, and he's a nice stack to go along with Kyler Murray, so I like DeAndre Hopkins here versus the Tennessee Titans. Okay, my sleeper pick at the wide receiver position is Michael Pittman Jr. from the Indianapolis Colts playing the Seattle Seahawks, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the 8th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. Michael Pittman Jr., he averaged 7.8 fantasy points per game on the season last year, got an average of 4.7 pass targets per game, but the last game of the season, he scored 15 fantasy points off of 10 pass targets, and I think he's going to be more involved in the offense this year. He's going to be about 8% owned. He was on the field for 78% of the snaps, projected at 11.8 fantasy points here in week 1, and he's only $4,100 DraftKings salary, $1,200 more on FanDuel, and Vegas thinks there's going to be 49.5 points scored in this game, with the Colts trailing by 3. So this is a good matchup, so I like Michael Pittman Jr. here versus the Seattle Seahawks. Okay, moving on to the tight end position. My tight end stud, it's Travis Kelsey from the Kansas City Chiefs playing the Cleveland Browns, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, but they give up the 4th most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. Travis Kelsey averaged 22.1 fantasy points per game on the season last year, getting an average of 9.7 pass targets per game. Now he's going to be about 13% owned. He was on the field for 82% of the snaps, projected at 20.1 fantasy points here in week 1. He's $8,300 DraftKings salary and $200 more on FanDuel. Vegas thinks there's going to be 54.5 points scored in this game, with the Kansas City Chiefs favored by 5.5. So I like that this game is within a touchdown, so I don't think this is going to be a blowout, and it's a fantastic matchup, so I like Travis Kelsey here versus the Cleveland Browns. Okay, my sleeper pick at the tight end position is Eric Ebron from the Pittsburgh Steelers playing the Buffalo Bills, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the 7th most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. Eric Ebron averaged 9.5 fantasy points per game on the season last year, getting an average of 6.1 pass targets per game. But take a look at his last 2 games. He scored 19 and 16 fantasy points off of 11 and 7 pass targets. He's only going to be about 1% owned. He was on the field for 70% of the snaps. He's projected at 7.5 fantasy points here in week 1. I like this pick though because he's only $3,900 DraftKings salary. He's $1,300 more on FanDuel. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 48.5 points scored in this game, with the Pittsburgh Steelers trailing by 6.5. So this could be a pass-heavy game for the Steelers if they fall behind the Buffalo Bills, and it's a great matchup. So I like Eric Ebron here versus the Buffalo Bills.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NFL slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again and good luck.